to be trained about something, and you also going out there to train other people or tell other people about what you have learned. Our slogan is, when you see something, you say something and you do something. So you owe everyone around you a duty of care and love to protect the rights under the law. So studio, are we ready? Okay, while we are so while we are still waiting for them, there are 30 rights, and these rights are universal. How do I mean when you say your rights are universal? They are universal because they are natural rights, they are human rights, they are inborn rights. They are rights that you've been born with, and they are part of you. No one can take them away from you. And also, they are also enforceable. What do I mean when I say enforceable? That you can institute a legal action. Are you getting my point? If any of these rights is being infringed upon, or there's anyone breaching the rights, are you getting my point? I don't want to sound like a lawyer, even if I'm one, so that you'll be able to understand what I'm talking about. So, the first rights that I'm going to, because we will not go through all the rights, because they are 30, but we'll just go through those ones that are very, very peculiar to you. You know, do you like respect? Do we have anyone here that does not like respect? If you don't like respect, let me see your hand. You don't like people to respect you. So I can see that we all love to be respected. So you have right to respect. You have right to human dignity. Okay, video is on. So let me give you some.
Wow. I don't even know how to give that a definition.
I would probably have to do a little bit of homework or something.
Any right, I think just as a normal, human,
The rights that humans have.
Se non rimane i diritti.
Le puoi preguntare a 20 persone e te vanno a dare 20 differenti opinioni.
Non saprei, è una domanda complicatissima.
We just take it for granted the day, we don't even consider what they are.
Human rights are the rights you have simply because you're human. It's how you instinctively expect and deserve to be treated as a person, like the right to live free, to speak your mind, and to be treated as equal. There are many kinds of rights. Most apply to a certain group. But human rights are the only ones that apply to absolutely everyone, everywhere. That means kids, old people, poor people, basketball players, garbage men, rappers, teachers, Africans, Indians, Albanians, Christians, Muslims, Kabbalists, atheists, your mom, your dad, your next door neighbor, and you all have the exact same human rights. In other words, they're universal. But the question remains, what are they?
Name human rights.
What the human rights are?
The right to live, equality between all people.
Right to religion, the right to...
There's supposed to be a list somewhere we should be aware of.
According to the United Nations, there are a total of 30 human rights, which are usually lumped together and called simply human rights. They're all listed out in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is the world's most widely accepted document on the subject. But it was a long time coming. At first, there were no human rights. If you were in with the right crowd, you were safe. If you weren't, well, you weren't. But then a guy named Cyrus the Great decided to change all that. After conquering Babylon, he did something completely revolutionary. He announced that all slaves were free to go. He also said people had the freedom to choose their religion, no matter what crowd they were a part of. He documented his words on a clay tablet known as the Cyrus Cylinder. And just like that, human rights were born. The idea spread quickly to Greece, to India, and eventually to Rome. They noticed that people naturally followed certain laws, even if they weren't told to. They called this natural law, but it kept getting trampled on by those in power. Not until 1,000 years later in England did they finally get a king to agree that no one can overrule the rights of the people, not even a king. People's rights were finally recognized, and they were now safe from those in power. Kind of. It still took a bunch of British rebels declaring their independence before the king got the point that all men are created equal. Which isn't to say he liked the idea, but he couldn't stop that, and America was born. The French immediately followed with their own revolution for their own rights. Their list was even longer, and they insisted that these rights weren't just made up. They were natural. The Roman concept of natural law had become natural rights. Unfortunately, not everyone was so thrilled. In France, a general named Napoleon decided to overthrow the new French democracy and crown himself emperor of the world. He almost succeeded, but the countries of Europe joined forces and defeated him. Human rights was again a hot topic. They drew up international agreements, broadly granting many rights across Europe. But only across Europe. The rest of the world somehow still didn't qualify. Instead, they got invaded, conquered, and consumed by Europe's massive empires. But then the young lawyer from India decided enough was enough. His name was Mahatma Gandhi, and in the face of violence, he insisted that all people of Earth had rights, not just in Europe. Eventually, even Europeans started to agree. But it wasn't going to be that easy.